Okay, we're going to do the lesson today, and let's talk quickly about what you need to have out because we're going to do it in 2 steps. First, we're going to do a wet on wet wash with watercolors, which I think I forgot to mark on your sheet. So if I did, you'll need to get those. But let me go over the rest of the stuffs and then make sure you've got everything. You can stop the video and go get the rest of your stuff. So you'll need watercolors and you'll need acrylic paint. I gave you a little cup of white acrylic paint, but you're gonna also need some colors. And I'm gonna let you decide what colors you want. To help you decide though, what we are going to do is we're going to use watercolor to do a wet on wet wash. That will dry, and then on top of that, we're going to use our stencils. You're going to learn how to use these stencils properly, and we're going to create snowflakes on top. However, white snowflakes are not going to show up very well. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to decide what colors you have that would represent snow, or I should rather say represent cold. So you think about your colors. Which two, at least 2 colors would do you feel like would represent snow? And get those out of your acrylic paints. Now, when you get those out, you need to get some sort of a palette to put your paint on. So, you know, if you don't have one of these kinds of palettes, which I actually need to get all you girls, then I've got my Dick Blick order. I'm working on it, and so I'll add these on as long as I don't forget. You need this, or get a paper plate, something to put your paint in. The other thing I want to talk to you for 1 minute about palettes. If you have a palette like this at home, this works great. If you don't, Emma's mom gave me a gift certificate, and I already bought some palettes for everybody with them, which are going to go to you with your next lessons. And I want to show you quickly how to take care of this, because either way, if you have one, you can go ahead and use it today. If not, then you're going to be getting one, and I want to make sure you use it correctly and clean it correctly. So for watercolors, it's no big deal. When you go to wash it, and this is your job as the artist to take care of this, you'll go up to a sink where you're allowed to wash paint. So make sure that you have, you know, you're using the sink your parents want you to use. You'll carefully pour it out, rinse it put some dishwashing detergent, like if you have Dawn or whatever you do your dishes with. Squeeze a little bit on, and you can just use your fingers and clean it. Then rinse it off really good, and I just let mine drip dry. If you put acrylic paint in it, so you know the acrylic paint is the stuff that's not going to come off your clothes. So before you start this project, make sure you're not wearing something that could get ruined. If you put acrylic paint in it, then what you need to do, don't go and just dump it into the sink, because this could really mess up your drains, because this stuff dries like a plastic. So what you want to do is get a paper towel. Don't use a good, even just a rag towel, because it'll just make a big crusty spot on this. It won't wash out, and it makes it hard to, the towel doesn't absorb after that. So I always say, grab a paper towel, wipe out all of that paint that you can get out of this thing, as much as you can get out, wipe out, and throw it away. Then take it to the sink, rinse it, put some soap on, and then wash it and let it air dry, okay? So that's how you take care of a real artist palette with acrylic paint and with watercolor. So let me show you the rest of the stuff you need, then pause the tape and get whatever you need. So you need a palette of some kind. Make sure you've got fresh, clean water. You need your watercolors, and go ahead and put some water in them to get them charged, whether you use the spray bottle method or just by pouring some water in there. So get those going. You're going to need the watercolor paper I sent you, the stencils, the acrylic paint, the white that I sent you, and then the colors that you choose to use for your snowflakes. And then you're going to need at least one of the big brushes. It can be round or flat. This is just, the only thing we're going to use these for is for the wash. So you want to do the wash as quickly as you can, and so the bigger the brush, the quicker the wash is going to go. And then I sent you some sponges. So get them all out, because the way we will use these is depending on the size of the stencil, that's the size of sponge we'll use. So get all these out, and so turn off the tape, get all those out, and then come back. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do our wash. Now I want you to watch me do it first from start to finish, and then you do it. What we want to do is pick at least 2 cool colors. You could do 1, but I think 2 would look better. You wanted to use 2 cool colors, and we're going to do just a horizontal wash on this. So you decide, like if you want to use, let's think about the cool colors. We've got green, blue, and purple. For winter time, I'm not sure green is the greatest choice, because it is more symbolic of growth. So I think green would probably be a much prettier on maybe we did flowers or something. We could do green and blue, you know, there. I don't know that I would use green. I'm going to use blue and purple. And let me show you the artwork we did the other class. Here is the blue and purple background. You can see snowflakes on top. I did blue, purple, blue on this one. And so this time I think I'll do purple, blue, purple. Okay? Now, I want to work fast. So I'm going to go through the whole thing. I'm going to put all my wash on. And then you stop the tape and do yours, okay? So until then, you keep your eyes on me, and I'm gonna do my whole wash. First thing I'm gonna do is get my clean water, put water on all my paper. My paper needs to be shiny, but not dripping wet. So what I'm gonna ask you to do, because we need this to dry, so we can work on it today. So you don't wanna get it too wet, but you don't wanna get it too dry. So you know how that goes with watercolors. It's all about learning control, and you girls are really doing an outstanding job of learning to control your paint. So this is another test of, can I do this? And if it gets messed up, we can fix it. So don't worry. Make sure you've got some clean paper towels around, because you always need these in case of a big boo-boo with the wash. Okay. So I'm going to put my water on. I'm going to show you how my paper has a shine. If you get too much water on it, you want to just hold it up, shake, 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 and get that off, okay? So that you can get off all those drips. Okay, so first I'm going to do my water, then I'm going to do my colors. So here we go. Here's my water. Get the top part, middle. Now look how quickly I'm going. I am not just sitting here doing one spot over and over and over. There's my water. Water's on. That took me just 20 seconds at the most. Okay, so now can you see I've got a sheen, but I'm not dripping. If I was dripping, I would be able to shake that off. Here's something else you can do. Let's say you do this and you're like, oh gosh, I can't get it all off. Take your paper towel, you can dab a little bit. Not too much though, because you want that flat look, okay? All right, now I'm gonna dip my brush in water. I'm gonna grab my purple, and I'm gonna go across the top of my paper with my purple, okay? Now I'm gonna clean my brush, grab my blue. Now I want these to kind of blend together. Grab my purple again. Clean my brush. I'm going to go back over some of this to make sure I get that blended in nicely, so I don't have really stark lines, okay? Okay, so now this needs to dry. So from this point, if you have a ton of water on the surface this is drying on, you want to pick this up, clean up your workspace and get rid of all that excess water. So now you need to wait for this to dry. I'm going to sit here and fan mine while we do this. One thing that will happen when we go to use the stencils, you're going to make mistakes on this project, which is one reason I really like this project, because art is a matter of creating what has never been there before, but you're going to make mistakes along the way. And artists are so good about correcting mistakes. They are the finest thinkers in the universe, in my opinion, because they know how to think on their feet and problem solve immediately. The important thing is that you are prepared to problem solve. So to be prepared to problem solve, you've got some clean water close by. You've got some paper towels, maybe some Kleenex. I usually have, I've got a box of Kleenex right there too. I usually have some clean Kleenex too, because I can grab that also and dab things up. Now, if you're at this point that I am, and you've got puddles, grab your paper towel or Kleenex and just gently let that suck up into the paper towel so it's not just drippy, drippy wet. Or go get a blow dryer. That's the other thing. Anytime we do watercolors, I need to remember to just tell everybody that if you want to put an old blow dryer in your art station, wherever you're working, and just keep it there with your supplies, it's very handy to have a blow dryer to help move things along when you need to. You need to have this dry enough. So now see, my paper is no longer curling. Remember, it was really curled. My paper is no longer curling. There is no shine. Couple little lines of shimmer, but that'll be dry before we get started. So you want to have your paper relatively dry so that you don't smear it around. And then the way we're going to do this, we are going to start with putting down our colored snowflakes first. You can decide any pattern you want. You can do rose. You can do a creative kind of abstract, idea, whatever you have. I mean, like a circular idea, a wave, whatever you have in your mind that you think that these snowflakes that are now just becoming our objects that we are using to create a piece of art, because it could very well not be snowflakes. These could be flowers. They could be balls. They could be cubes. There's lots of different things we could use here. We're just using snowflakes. So no matter what the shape is, square, circle, a wave, whatever the shape of the object is, doesn't matter. It's how you put it on the paper. And we're going to be working a lot more in making compositional decisions, because that's part of composition. Today, though, my goal is for you to learn how to use these stencils correctly so that we can incorporate some stencils with our artwork. I've got an oil painting that I got to get back to work on, but one of the things I'm going to do with it is I've never incorporated a stencil in oil. So I got to figure out how to do that, because I think I want to add some stencil elements, because whatever we are using, that's our element. So if we had little squares or circles or flowers, no matter what it is, whatever shape we're using, that's the element that we're using to create our art. Okay, I'm dry now. It feels cool, so there's still dampness in there. If it didn't feel cool, if the paper felt warm, it would probably be totally dry. But it's still cool, so that's still evaporating, and that's fine. So the first thing I'm going to do is decide which snowflake I want to start with, and we're going to do this one color at a time. So when you first get started, you're going to use one color, then you will move to another color. In between using your stencil, here's the thing. I'll start with this stencil. I'll get my paint. This is how you lay it down. You're going to lay it down wherever you want it, and then you need to hold it really carefully, because if it slides the tiniest bit, it will smear your snowflake. And then you'll have a mistake to fix, which I had a couple of them on this one. So you want to be really careful. Another thing you want to do is don't go over the edge. So you got paint on this thing, you don't want to blop up even just a tiny bit, you'll see it. If that happens and you blop over, that just means you got to wait for that to dry and you put another snowflake in that area so that it will just move in and you won't even notice it. I told the other students I made a mistake on my art last week with one of the other online students. We were doing those tree silhouettes on the tint background. So remember we had the white sun or white moon, whatever we wanted to call it, and the tint got darker and darker as we went. Well, worst thing that could happen is drop some of that black paint in the middle of that, and guess what happened? I spilled black paint in the middle of my picture. So to fix it, because you can't wipe it off, once it's there, it's there. You're not getting rid of it. So what I did was, when I was completely finished, I took black paint on my brush and I tapped all over and flicked black paint on the whole thing, so then it looked like it was part of the artwork. It was either that or start over, and I could have started over too. So that's always an option. If it is something that you cannot fix and it's going to drive you crazy, you can always start over. Okay, because this is just a piece of paper. It's not the end of the world. Okay, back to how you do this. So you're going to hold this down. Carefully get your paint on the whole thing. Then you have to lift it up. This is very hard. So you want to, don't move that hand. This hand is your anchor. You're going to get up the edge and then slowly lift that up and off. After you do that, you want to lay it on your paper towel so the back gets cleaned off, and then wipe off the front so that you're sure you don't have wet paint. Because if there's a tiny bit of wet paint on here and you go to lay it down, it's going to leave a mark of paint. So this is a longer process, but it's a good process for you to learn how to use this stencil as a tool and the steps that go through, in order to use it, the steps you've got to go through. Okay, so first I'm going to do, I've chosen, let's see, I used this purple last time. I think I'm going to use this purple. It's not as dark. So I'm going to put some of this in a pile on my palette. Now when you load your brush, oh, and also remember, stop the video, because I'll forget to tell you to stop the video. Stop the video in between when you're working and I'm working. Stop the video so that you can concentrate on your work. And if you get ahead of me, then just go ahead and, move the tape forward some, okay? Or the video, whatever it's called. Okay, so now when you load your brush, what you don't want to do is get it so thick that you've got a big glob on the end. Do not squeeze glue on it. So you don't want to, or paint, you don't want to just hold your tube and just like that. No, 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 no. You want it on a palette so you get a smooth covering of paint. Now I want you to look at what I've got here. I have just enough paint. See on the side? It's not coming up the side. You don't need it all covered in paint. That'll just make a mess. So you want just a flat amount of paint, and then I always kind of dab it around a little bit to make sure I've got the whole thing covered good. Okay, so here, this stencil, I'll use this one first, and I think I'm going to kind of make just a free flow across the page, unless I make a mistake. If I drop a piece of paint up here, then I'll be making a snowflake up there to cover it. So I'm going to use this snowflake, so I need to hold this down. Now I'm very close to the edge right here, so I've got to be careful not to go over it. So I'm going to start there. Each time stopping to see what I did, make sure I need to make a little correction there to get up in there. One of the students used a glitter paint. It didn't work well because it was really wet and it ran up underneath the edges. So don't use really wet, really free-flowing paint. Okay, there it's on. So now I've got to carefully pick it up, and there's my snowflake. So now I lay my snowflake down here and wipe it off. Get off all that wet paint. When you are done with these, you're going to wipe off as much as you can, and then what you need to do, not your mom or your dad, you girls need to take care of your own equipment. You need to soak these in a little bit of soapy water, like in the kitchen sink, and get off as much of this as you can, as much of the acrylic paint. Okay, so there's my first snowflake. So now I'm going to stick with the same color. And I'm going to make a couple of other snowflakes kind of tumbling across the paper. I'm going to hold it down tight. Be careful, don't get over that edge and make a big boo-boo. Now carefully peel it up and lay it down and clean it. So there's two big ones. And you can put on as many snowflakes as you want. Honestly, I really think this project would look pretty where I was like stacking them up here. I think if you could get some really pretty snowflakes, that stacking, I would like to play with that idea of stacking more and see how I could get it to turn out. So this time I think I'll use this one. And you can use the same snowflake over and over too. On my white ones, I use the exact same one over and over. I kind of like that for unity. So I've got unity happening in my pattern here because I'm using the same paint color. Now I carefully peel it up. Now see, that bled some in between. Nothing I can do about that. It's just this pattern, that's how it turned out. Oh, wait a minute, that's got like a funny thing. Oh no, it must have just been gloppy paint. So you can decide, and doing this for several different projects might be cool because you could just do all kinds of different things with them. Just remember, don't use real liquidy paint that's going to pour everywhere. That's the important thing. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. I think I'll do an odd number. That one was a stinker, so I'm not going to do him again. I'm going to go back and do this one again. I'm going to lay it right here. So I'm kind of creating a line. Something else I noticed today is you girls who have been in Montessori school have really quite excellent skills with using tools like this. Really far superior to other students your age, trust me. Your fine motor skills are excellent. You know how to be patient and take your time with this stuff. I would never try to do this in a big classroom of kids in a regular public school art or private school art class. I mean, it would just turn into the biggest mess you've ever seen. But you girls can handle it. So I tell you, I was quite impressed today watching it happen. Okay, I tell you what, I really like that snowflake. So what I'm going to do, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, I need to have that odd number. You know, that rule of odds. So I need 5, and I really like that snowflake. And then that would give me another odd number, 1, 2, and I'll do a 3 with that same snowflake. So I have 3 of the same, so that's an odd number, and I'll have 5 of that color as my odd number. So there's my rule of odds, and that will make this more pleasant to the human eye. I don't know if my dog will appreciate it, because I don't know if rule of thirds works for Magnolia, but it does work for people. Well, it's not as clear because I think as I'm using this, it's still retaining some of that paint on the edge. Probably, if you have time and you want to be really careful at home, what you could do would be in between. If you want to use the same one over again, spray a little water on that before it gets too dried up and clean it that way. Then when you go to use it, you will have gotten rid of all of that extra paint. Because now look, I had already wiped it once, but look at how much more paint I got off of it. So let me show you up close. See how clean and crisp those lines are on this guy? Now, I did him one time. 2 times, it's getting a little less crisp because it's got, the edges still has paint on it. Now look at this one I just did. See how kind of glommy those edges are? So if that bothers you and you want to keep those clean, crisp lines, then after you use it, take some clean water, spray on there, and wipe it up. So you've got all clean to work with. Okay, now I'm going to use my next color. Now I can't use this sponge again because I've got purple paint in it. I'm going to put it in my water because that's got to be really pretty much cleaned up. I might be able to clean this one up enough to use it for this purple, but I don't want to take any chances. So I've got enough sponges to just change to another sponge, so that's what I'm going to do. What I don't want to do is take a little tiny dinky sponge and try to do a really big snowflake. I want to use a larger sponge for a larger snowflake. Now, this sponge is a big old sponge. Let's see, it might work. We'll try it. Okay, here's my big daddy. Got my paint on it. Now let's see. I would really love to overlap these. I just don't know if it's dry enough yet. Let's see. I'm gonna carefully, no, I don't want that one. I want, what do I want? Oh, I think I'll put, which one is that? Okay, I'll try this one. I kind of want to overlap right here. I don't know why. I'm not gonna overlap all 3. I think I'll just overlap like this one. Now I gotta be so careful because I don't want to smudge this snowflake. If I go to rubbing this thing around, I'm gonna have a mess. Now, let's see how this big daddy works. Lay that down. Oh goodness, careful, careful, careful. There we go. Okay. So I've got a little bit of an overlap there. I like that. So now I'm going to use this one again, and I'm going to go here, I think. Ooh, I really think it would be nice overlapped again. Eeks, don't mess this up, Miss Kim. Okay. Ooh, I don't know if I got enough paint on that. I'm going to flip this open. Put out a little more paint and not disturb what I have down here. Okay. Alrighty. Please let this work. I need some more. Eeks. Get up in there. Come on, Spongeroo. Let me get some more paint. I'm glad I put out more paint because it's not there. Gently, 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 gently. Don't mess it up. Okay. Now I'm going to put on one more. I think I'm going to go back to this one that I really liked and do it in the lighter purple, but I've really got to put more paint out. Okay. I am buying you girls some more acrylic paint too, so I don't know if I mentioned that. Because because I realized you had those little tiny cups. If you have those little tiny cups is all you're using, you're going to need to get a plastic knife or something and scrape it out and put it on your palette. And then I found some little kits at Target that I think will work, that I'm ordering for you girls. So you'll get them with your next lessons. I don't want you fighting with your equipment because that makes it harder to learn. Okay, almost. Got right up in there. Now gently, gently, gently. Ooh, I like it, I like it. Okay, now what I want to happen are these big ones to start drying. And while they're drying, I'm going to now add one more color. I've got a teal that really pops off the page. And since it really pops, I want to use some of these smaller stars. I don't want one giant teal star to become the emphasis. Because then if I have like one teal star that's big and it's just there, the person looking at the artwork, their eye will zoom in on that teal star every time because that becomes the emphasis. So what I want to do, instead of having that become the emphasis, I want to be able to put a few little teal stars so they just become part of the pattern, okay? We're thinking about pattern. All right, so now I'm going to get this guy in the water. I'm going to use this size brush. Make sure I've got it right amount on. And I'm going to use this little teal guy right here. And let's see, I think I'll put one. Now this will be tricky because I don't want to touch this wet paint. I do have one option, and that is to carefully cut around. So if you need to cut your little snowflake, go right ahead. I want you girls to keep these. Also, you know, you can paint your windows and stuff with using these. Like if you want to put snowflakes on your windows or on your bedroom mirror, you can use tempera paint, just not liquidy tempera paint. It's got to be, you know, pretty substantial and thick. So you probably need to get the squeeze kind for the bottle. I used to paint on windows every year for the Super Bowl for my mother and father-in-law in Miami. I did big, huge football helmets with tempera paint. So you can paint on glass with tempera. It's just that that stuff in the cakes is going to be pretty liquidy. Okay, I'm going to lay this down here and pray I don't smudge anything. Bounce, bounce. Please, please work. Don't smudge. Now carefully pick it right straight up. There. Ooh, that's a terrible looking little guy. So I don't like that one at all. I'm going to have to put a white snowflake over that. Let me show you. Look at how it glopped. See that? Just one big glop. So I'm not going to use that one again. I'll try this star. Let me put a star right here. Hold it down. All right, star. You got to look better than that snowflake. That snowflake looks like a glob. Now carefully, carefully, carefully. There we go. Now that's cute. Also, just thought of something else. Some of the girls like to do glitter. So if you want to do glitter, make sure you have permission to use glitter in the house. And I have a glitter box that I use. So I have an actual cardboard box that is our glitter box that you've used in the studio. But you could sprinkle a little bit of glitter while the paint is wet. If the paint is dry, you can't add the glitter. It's got to be wet. Let's see. I'll try this little snowflake here. All right. Work for me, little friend. Ooh. You know, I wonder if this blue paint is a little more liquidy too. Oh no, yeah, it is kind of liquidy. That one turned out better. Okay, so I've got 1, 2, 3 teal. 1, 2, 3 of my mid-violet tone. and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of my deepest shade. Okay, so I've got some shades of purple, I've got some tints of purple, and then I've got my teal. I used the word tone a minute ago, and a tone, we'll learn more about that later, but a tone is when you mix two tints, and so it will have a little bit of gray in it. So we'll talk about that later, but a tone is two tints mixed. Okie doke. So this is tint and shade, and then the teal is just the color, or it's actually a mixture because it's got some blue and green in it. Okay, here we go. Now we're going to do white on top. So I need to get those little blue ones to dry just a little more. And then over the top, now I'm going to use my white. Because now over the top, I can add my white snowflakes to add another level of interest. The layering makes it interesting, and you know, you could do your white in so many different ways. You could take your white and do a pattern of white of the exact same snowflake, bonk, 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 like a checkerboard. Or do it like a checkerboard and do white of this shape, white of this shape, white of this shape, white of this shape, and do it that way. Or you can do it random. I enjoy a more random look, so I'm going to go random. And this little guy is really wet, that guy is wet, so I will have to be really careful of those teal ones. Also, with the acrylic paint, you know, it doesn't come out, so make sure that you are getting your sponges into the water so that you'll be able to wash them. When you're done with this, you'll take these up to the sink that you are allowed to wash brushes in. You will squeeze out the water that's in the sponge. You'll add a little bit of dishwashing detergent and just wash it with your hands like this, squish, squish, squish. Put it under the clean water to rinse, 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 rinse. Keep squeezing it until no soap comes out. Dawn, I like Dawn because it seems like it rinses easier and it rinses faster where you don't have leftover soap in your bristles or in your sponge. Okay, so I'm gonna go with white now, and I think I'm gonna use just this one and see how that turns out with just white, okay? And I've got to be super careful because I still got some wet spots. Oh, that's not white. If at home, don't paint until it's dry, okay? I'm taking a risk so I could do this video for you, but what I'm doing is risky and I could mess it up by doing this. But that's okay. That's part of learning. If I mess it up, we'll fix it. Okie doke. Got my paint. Got my star or my snowflake. So I think I'm going to start with one white snowflake here. Put down my sponge. Carefully lift. There we go. That first perfect snowflake is in a good spot because it's right there all by itself where you can see all those nice, clear, clean lines. Okay, now that's quite a full little area right there. So I think I'm going to go, before I do anything else there, I think I'm going to go right down here and overlap a white onto this violet, this mid-tint violet. Now I got two wet stars. I got that one, I got that one. So now I got to get really creative how I hold this. So I've got to keep it out of that wet paint. So here we go. I got to keep that side curled up, and hope that I don't drop it. Here we go. Let's see how this turns out. Lay it down. Carefully lift up. Okay, let me lift that up so that you can see it in the camera better. Okay, so now that's 2. Let's see, next. I've got a line that's kind of doing this, but that is making a glop and pulling away from my line that I liked. So I'm going to make another line. That thing's a mess, that little gloppy one right there. So I'm gonna do a snowflake here, come down, and then go off that way. So it'll be kind of like a wave, okay? Let's see if this works. If I can fix this little problem I have up here, that would be good. Okay, so now, which one am I using? Which one was I using? Oh, this one. Okay, so now I gotta be careful. So my little gloppy thing is still wet. I'm gonna put just part of this on the glop. Okay, and careful. There we go. Oh, okay. I'm happier with that. Yep. Okay, that covers up the glop. The white can be seen because it's got the darker behind it. And I've got a line now instead of just a glop of snowflakes. Okay, so now instead of going here first, I want these to dry because I'm going to overlap right there. And I'm going to go, get my line going over this way. So I've turned my paper the other direction so I don't have to fight with it. That is wet. That is wet. So I've got to bear that in mind while I'm working. I cannot lay anything on that one. It's so wet. It's got so much paint that there's nothing I can do with it. So I'm going to curl this up again. I want it here and here. Ooh, goodness, I think it's touching it. Don't mess it up. I think it's touching that gloppy one. So now I gotta be really careful when I pick this up. So I don't, oh good, I didn't. Whew. That was a close call. Okay, I could have really made a big fat mess with that gloppy little teal one. Alrighty. Now let's look at what we have here. All right, okay, now I feel a line starting. So now this one doesn't look too great right there. So I'm gonna put my snowflake to kind of overlap that one. Careful. There we go. Okay, yep. Like that better. And, okay, so now, do you see the line that is happening? Okay, now I gotta decide, I don't want to have just half a snowflake on here, or I have to put half a snowflake on in some other spots. You can't just have one area with just half of an element on it. So I'm going to put one full snowflake right here, I think. Let's see. And then I think I'm going to do one more, and that's it. Okay, so now I've got a line happening. You see my line. We're going, but I need over in here. And I don't want to make it just perfectly spaced apart. I want, because otherwise it no longer looks quite as a random pattern. So I want to put one there. Ooh, I've got an idea. Okay, just thought of a solution, because I was thinking I could overlap one, but you know what would be a better idea? Not overlap it, use a completely different snowflake. So what I will do, I'm going to use that shape, this one right here, and I'm going to lay it right here. Is going to overlap, and we're going to pray that I don't completely mess this up. Eeks, it's laying right down on top of that other one. Please don't mess up. Okay? Be a nice snowflake and don't mess up for Miss Kim. But if it messes up, I just gotta fix it. 'Tis life. Okay, let's see. Okay, fingers crossed that I don't drop it or smear it. Okay, there we go. So now I have my line that I wanted. I broke up the patterned look of like a stamp by using a completely different shape but the same color. So that provides unity and variety. So this adds the variety to the unified white snowflakes. Make sense? So that's just a little extra compositional stuff for you to put in your hat and think about, so that when you're doing different artworks at home, you can think about using some of these tools that we're learning. Okay? I will see you on our next class, which is the 13th of February, the day before Valentine's Day. So we will be doing a project that's associated with the symbol of a heart, but we will not be doing Valentine's. So we're going to look at the way other artists have used the heart as a symbol in their work. Jim Dine is one of them. So that's just one of the things we're going to do next lesson, which is the 13th of February. You're going to have 2 Saturdays off. So I will see you later. Bye.